Hello everyone, welcome to PHTV Channel 4 in Palos Heights. I'm Sue Jankowski and we are around Palos with our guest today, and that is Rebecca McDougall, who is a licensed clinic social worker from Bethany Christian Services. Bethany, I want to keep calling you Bethany.
I get that a lot.
Rebecca, nice to see you here.
Thank you.
You know, Bethany Christian Services is in town, and it was in town, then out of town. Now it's back in Palos Heights. Probably for a while, and it is located, I'm going to give you the address, 12416 South Harlem Avenue, Suite 305, right in Palos Heights here, right down Harlem Avenue. And I was just saying to Rebecca that this is kind of like, to me, a little bit of a secret. So we're going to uncover Bethany Christian Services and find out exactly what they do.
Great.
And so I guess that's what we need to know. What is it all about, for starters?
So Bethany Christian Service is a global, not-for-profit child welfare agency, social service agency, and our mission is to demonstrate the love and compassion of Jesus Christ by protecting and enhancing the lives of children and empowering youth and strengthening families through quality social services. Our corporate office is in Grand Rapids, and we're in 34 states and 20 countries around the world, but I'm the director of the Chicago branch, which is the Illinois branch. People sometimes think it's really big because it's Chicago, but we're not necessarily one of the largest branches, but we cover all of northern Illinois for many of our programs. So.
Okay. So, and I've read with, it's been an agency since 1944, so this is really a long time. Yep. So what is the, what can people expect to find if they're looking for services from Bethany Christian Services? What kind of services would you be providing?
Well, we're a licensed child placing agency for the state of Illinois under DCFS. And we have several programs. We do pregnancy counseling with women who probably are considering adoption as an option. So we'll get referrals from hospitals and doctors and pregnancy centers and provide professional counseling to women who want to look at all their options. We do about 20 infant adoption placements a year through our domestic adoption program. And then we do international adoption, which because we're part of a large, probably the largest adoption agency in the country, Bethany as a whole, we work with quite a few countries, and we would do the home studies here in Illinois and the post-placement services for families. And we do have adoptive families here in this area, but they can come from anywhere in northern Illinois. We have a counseling program on site in our Palos Heights office, and our therapists tend to focus on family counseling, working with kids who've had early trauma in their life, like children who've been in orphanages or been neglected or abused. It's kind of a specialty to work with children that way who've had trauma. We also are part of a program called Safe Families for Children, and we oversee the southwest suburbs, basically. This is our area for covering Safe Families for Children, which I'd love to tell you about. And we're just about ready to launch a transitional foster care program for unaccompanied minor refugees, which many of our branches do in other parts of the country. That probably won't be in Palos Heights. We'll be in a Spanish-speaking area for that. So. Okay,
so there's a lot of happening and going on, a lot of branches to this. So let's just start with the Safe Families.
Sure.
What is that all about?
So Safe Families actually was started right here in Chicago by David Anderson, who is the director of Lydia Home. There's a lot of parents, single parents usually, who don't have good support networks. And they would come to him and say, I'd like my child, could my child come into your residential program or into one of your homes while I go for drug treatment or go into the hospital, or I'm homeless and I don't want my kids to be in the homeless shelter. And really your children had to be neglected or abused to get those services. So he came up with this idea that maybe we could find families who would voluntarily provide temporary care for children while their parents were working through a crisis. And then so that keep the kids out of the foster care system, because these kids don't need to go into the foster care system. And it prevents abuse because parents get overwhelmed. And you or I might have called our mother or our sister or someone in our church or our neighborhood, but a lot of these parents don't have stable families that they come from. They just aren't socially connected. They're under-resourced. So our families here in this community, we screen them, we study them, and they're approved. We train them, and they will take children that we connect to them who need a temporary place to stay, and they'll become friends with the parent and mentor them and become like a grandparent or an aunt or uncle. The average stay is about 35 days for each child, and a lot of them are preschoolers, but not all, and I think we did 241 arrangements last year.
Wow.
Just here in the southwest suburbs. Right. So it's kind of it's a child abuse and prevention type ministry. Basically, a church might take it on and have several families. Harvest Bible Chapel here in Palos Heights has families. Orland Park Christian Reformed has families. We've worked with a local Catholic church who has families, and they'll all support those families. So it's a great program.
It sounds really great because those parents may just need that moment, and they don't have to have their child in that foster care system, but yet they know they're with people that have been screened and evaluated, and their child will be safe there until they've kind of been able to gather.
Right, and you can imagine how difficult it is to let strangers take your child.
Yeah,
the parent signs a temporary guardianship, and we screen everybody, but we never take custody of the children. But we have visitors who go every week, visit the family. So these parents are desperate. They're really in difficult situations. We'll get calls from the local hospital. We have somebody in our waiting room waiting to come in to the hospital, and they have 2 children with them, and where are their children going to go?
Right.
And they used to have to call DCFS, and they'd go into foster care. So we have a lot of support from DCFS for this program because it saves them a lot of work and money, frankly. And then they know their children are safe, and they're still the guardian of their child, and then the child goes back home.
Right.
Sometimes the child needs to go into foster care, maybe, but 95% of the children return home to their parent.
Okay. They just need that intermediate time to kind of get it together. And it is, I mean, it's so wonderful because we're fortunate, most of us have, like you said, some kind of network, whether it's family or community, that can maybe take care of our child for a while, but not everybody does. So that's amazing and great. Now, okay, so you have the Safe Family. Do you also do then foster care through the agency? No,
we're not at this time a foster care provider. We have been in the past. It's kind of difficult to work with the state of Illinois sometimes.
No.
But so we moved to this model where we can really do something preventative. But we will be licensing foster families for our transitional foster care program.
Okay. What is a transitional foster care program?
So the transitional foster care program for unaccompanied minors, these children are wards of the federal government who've crossed our border and been taken into federal custody, and they come into a program under the Office of Refugee Resettlement, and our offices that have contracts to do that work provide temporary homes for the children, and they come to our site, and we have case managers. They usually have somebody waiting for them here in this country. And so we do the casework to make sure they get where they need to go. Again, the average stay is just 3 to 12 weeks. Most organizations have residential type programs for these kids or group homes. And what's unique about Bethany is we believe that every child should be in a family. That's where they thrive. So we license families and place them with families during that time.
Okay. So probably, like you said previously, our area is not going to have a lot of use for that particular
we won't have
service. Our
center here where the kids come. The kids are brought during the day because we need to have Spanish-speaking staff. So we're probably going to do that in DuPage, where we have a community in the West Chicago area, where we have some Spanish churches that will get involved and support the program. But it will be done administratively out of our office here in Palos Heights.
But now you do have adoption. You do work with people who are looking to adopt children.
Yeah. So last night we had an information meeting. And those are posted on our website. Monthly we have information meetings. We had it at our office on the second floor. We have a group space, and probably 9 couples come, and we talk about all our programs and what might fit for them, what the cost is, what the wait time is. We talk about the different countries where Bethany has programs, and then families can apply to those programs.
Okay, so you do domestic and like international.
And we do international as
adoptions.
well, right?
Is that based on what those couples are looking to do?
Yes, it is. And sometimes they just feel this call to adopt, people call it, or they can't have children and they want to have children. And so they come to us, and some people understand that We don't have, a room full of babies waiting for families, but there's children all over the world. We also do foster care adoption, where we do the home study for families. I think we did 5 of those last year, where we have 100,000 children in our country who are in the foster care system who are legally free to be adopted.
Wow.
And they're mostly older children, sibling groups, children with special needs. So we can do a home study here in Illinois, and those families can network to find a child that's a good fit for them. And some of the other Bethany offices do foster care, so we have a list of waiting children as well within our agency.
And so sometimes they're not infants, but children who are 3, whoever, 17 need
So international
families.
adoption children are not infants. They're almost always over 1 year old, and sometimes older when they come, by the time they go through the screening process. And in our domestic program, all our children are voluntarily relinquished by the parents. So it's most common that they're infants. Our birth mother makes a plan of adoption for her baby and chooses a family from profiles and meets the family and places that child with the family. A birth mother can't sign any papers until the baby's at least 72 hours old in our state. But we do have children who are toddlers or a little older. We had a family in this community who adopted a 6 or 7 year old this year. Again, a child that might have ended up in foster care. So our goal is that every child have a loving family.
Yeah, that's a great goal.
That's where they thrive best.
Every child needs a family, that is for sure. So they can adopt, from a country, or I'm sure there are children who have physical needs that, that they have special needs, whether it's physical or emotional.
Most of the children who are adopted internationally these days have some kind of special need. Bethany really works to try to keep kids in their countries if we can. For instance, we have a program in Ethiopia. We have an office there, a branch like mine with staff and a branch director. I got to visit it a few years ago, and they set up a foster to adopt program with children that were in orphanages. And it's not culturally acceptable for people to adopt non-relatives, but they went to the churches there and said, we have a responsibility for our orphans. And some of the pastors stepped up and said, we're going to do this. And I think we've placed over 200 children in country in Ethiopia. And Ethiopia closed last year to international adoption. So how wonderful that these children can be adopted there.
Right, that is wonderful.
We're doing the same thing in South Africa, although we have a family now, I believe, that's in South Africa. You have to go there for 6 weeks if you adopt.
Oh, wow.
And be with that child and before you can bring the child out.
Make sure it's all going to work together.
Yes, and we do adoptions in China, quite a few, and most of those kids have some kind of special need, although some of those things are correctable and some of them aren't. So we have some amazing families who come to us who just have a call and want to adopt a child who would not have a family. Because if those children don't have a family and they become of age, whatever that is in that country, they're going to be on the street. And the chances that they're going to be trafficked or used in some way is really high.
I noticed, I was kind of reading through the brochures, and I noticed that there was some families that adopted more than one child. Maybe some have special needs or not, but they were kind of like, once they started with one, it might be siblings that they're adopting, or it might be just, now that they've begun that process, they kind of keep gathering in more and more kids.
That's true. We see this happen with families who come to Safe Families, and they say, well, we could be a host family and take a child into our home for a few weeks, and they do that, and they see the need, and they see how they can really care about these kids and how they can connect. And then they say, well, maybe we want to take the next step and become a foster family. And some of them become licensed as foster families. And then sometimes they go another step and say, we think we'd like to adopt a child and make that permanent. And then sometimes they adopt a second child, and sometimes a third child. And it's really neat to see how people can learn and move through this process. And
well, that's a good way to do it too, because they may not know how are they going to feel about that whole process.
That's true.
So as they go through it step by step, they can really understand this is or isn't meant for our family to do on a permanent basis.
And they can bring a child home, and I had a host family in Safe Families tell me they brought a 17-month-old, into their family, and that child wasn't walking. And over a period of a month that they had that child just for the stability and stimulation. That child was walking and talking. They can see the difference it makes to have a stable environment for a child.
Right. So. Now, I noticed also that there was something called an open adoption, which I'm not sure, maybe you could explain what that is to viewers.
I love to talk about open adoption. I have been in this field for 35 years, and most of my early years was spent working with birth parents. And I have 3 children myself who we adopted through open adoption. They aren't children anymore. They're 30, 27, and 21, but they're always our kids, right?
Of course.
So open adoption just means that the birth and adoptive parents meet and choose each other, that they have some kind of commitment to ongoing contact, and they have full identifying information about each other. So it's a relationship. It's like you become sort of extended family. And some of the concerns when we started doing open adoption probably in the 80s was that kids would be confused. They wouldn't know
who's who.
Who was who?
Yeah. Who's my mom?
That's not true.
Yeah.
Open adoption works best when the birth parents accept that the adoptive parents are the parents of the child. And they show that through their words and action, by calling the child the name, the adoptive parents, by referring to their moms and dads. And when adoptive parents, in turn, invite the birth parents to have a place in their family, but it's sort of like in-laws, you know, it's sort of like you have this third set of in-laws in your family where you're related, but they're not part of your everyday life, but you develop traditions and do things with them. So we started doing openness because we thought it helped birth mothers. It gave them some sense of, you know, we started with just a picture or something like that, and then they started meeting each other. And what we learned was pretty quickly that it really helped adoptive families because they were no longer afraid of the birth mother.
Right.
You know, if
she's going to show up.
If a young girl drove by slow in her car, is that the birth mother coming to get her child? Because they knew her.
Right.
And they had her blessing. And they knew this is what her plan was for her child and what she wanted. Then as we've watched children grow up in open adoption, we've realized how good it is for kids. It's just information. And now we live, you know, I've been in this field long enough. I remember when adoptive parents would come to the agency and they'd want to park their car 2 blocks away so the birth mother wouldn't see their license plates.
Oh,
well, that's, you know, now we have these profiles, and with social media, anybody could figure out who anybody was, basically.
Yeah,
they're not afraid of that anymore.
Yeah.
But some people enter into those relationships and it's really good, and other people are more private and it's more difficult for them. And I just met with a birth mother yesterday who placed her baby over the holidays, and she thought she had other children. She didn't want any contact, but she met the family ahead. She invited them to go to her prenatal appointments, and then she just realized she really wanted to spend time with her baby, and she spent 4 days in a hotel room after the birth just bonding, and then she placed the baby with them, and she said, I just love getting pictures by text. You know, I know he's doing good, and I know they love him, and it's really helped her move on and feel good about her decision and more in control of it. So even when there's negative information, it can be a really positive thing.
Well, at least you know that negative information. You can
right, exactly.
work to remedy
and you share
it somehow.
It appropriately, age appropriately, like you do other issues in life, and just it fills that information gap for children, and they know they're loved by everybody, and they know who mom and dad are, you know, when the day is done.
Now, is that more typical for adoptions to have that open adoption
it is.
nowadays?
It's more, we don't even make a big deal about it anymore.
It's just
part of our
is.
training for adoptive parents is we do have a class on, we call it whole family relationships, on how do you navigate these relationships and how do you manage them, and sometimes we get back involved because the birth parents grieving and the adoptive families have all this joy, and they're, you know, and yet they can feel some of the grief and loss of the birth parent.
Right.
And you help each other out. Yeah. But it's child focused. What's going to be best for this child?
Yeah, that's the key thing. Okay, along with all these things, you talked a little bit about the counseling that goes on. So if someone, can anyone just come in and say, I have some issues in our family and I need some counseling? How does that work?
Yeah, so they would call the office and say that they'd like to talk to one of our therapists. We are paneled for insurance, several insurance companies, so we figure out, like you would at any office, how those costs would be covered. They would, could meet with one of our therapists, And again, we tend to specialize in family type issues, relationships, early trauma, attachment issues, if children have lived in different places, how to build those attachments with the parents they're living with now.
Okay.
And lots of kids who weren't adopted nowadays have had different living situations with
Right.
different people.
Right. So they can come in and get that. And I mean, really, there's so many services that you do have and do offer. And so that, you know, people could come in, and it's for children, teens, families, couples, individuals, all avenues, really.
Yeah, we bring families together, and we want to strengthen families. That's really our mission.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so, you know, if someone is thinking, just even thinking about helping out, whether it's the Safe Family or fostering with leading to adoption, or someone is thinking about having their baby or child go through that adoption process, how do they kind of start all of this? How do they get involved in being like the volunteer or the helper in that way?
So we have a pretty extensive website, Bethany.org. It's pretty easy.
Yeah.
And our part of that is Bethany.org/Chicago. They call us the Chicago office.
Okay.
Because who knows where Palos Heights is, right? We
We
do.
know where Chicago is.
So there's lots of good information on that. It lists all our information meetings for families interested in adopting. Safe Families and Pregnancy Counseling are programs that are totally supported through donations and volunteers. So if a woman's interested in learning about adoption, she's considering adoption. Sometimes we have single fathers too for her child. Those services are all free. They could certainly call our office. We have an on-call pregnancy, always have an on-call pregnancy counseling. Even though it says pregnancy counseling, we work with women who have children already too.
Okay.
Especially young children. And we would set up an appointment with one of our counselors. So just call the office number. Do you want me to give that?
Yes, please do.
So it's 708-385-4889. And then our receptionist would put you in touch with the right person and the right program, basically, or give you a direct number to call.
Okay.
We really encourage families to come to the information meetings if they're interested in adopting, and then we can also set up one-on-one to see if it's a good fit, what might be a good fit, what might be a good program. Safe Families, call the office, and especially in this area, our Safe Families coordinator would definitely get in touch with somebody who wants to volunteer. And there's different ways to volunteer in Safe Families. You can be a host family, which you would actually bring children in. We also have Safe Family coaches, which are people usually with some child welfare experience or parenting experience who maybe can't bring a child into their home, but they can be our visiting family. So they take the same training. We visit once a week the first month and once a month after that, and they would support that family. Could be a family friend who's somebody who might transport the children, babysit the children. We go through the same screening process for anybody that's obviously involved with the children. But this is a really volunteer-driven type of ministry, basically, and we can go to churches and talk about this. If a church together wanted to have several families involved, or a community even could do that. We build circles of support around these families that bring the children in, and then we work with the biological parent while we're doing that. So there's lots of ways to volunteer there.
Yeah, and that makes it so much better for the person who said, yes, I will be the family that that child lives with, but maybe I can't do everything, because they also have their own either family or life or whatever. So to have that network, whether it's in the community or church community or whatever, but have people step in and say, well, you know, I can do this part.
Right.
I can watch him. Or
they can
her.
bring a meal the night the child comes home, or they can watch that child. So we try to, we screen all those people in that circle of support so they can call on those other folks, and everybody can do something basic. And you know, I just want to say that hosting in Safe Families it's for any age people. We've had single people who've done this, you know, we've had people who can just do respite care on the weekends if a family's going on vacation, or take a child for a day, but maybe they have a job and they can't do overnight, but they could pick up a child after school or later in the day. We've had retired people who do this. They make great host families. They're like grandparents to these kids. We've had young moms who are home with a couple other kids who can't go volunteer in an office, but they can take another child in and care for that child. And it's just eye-opening for people, because again, we have resourced families who are providing support to under-resourced families. And what I find is a lot of people, they are really willing to do that, but they don't know how to connect to those people. So we connect children to families. We make the connection, and then they we don't, I mean, our staff doesn't do this. It's our host families who do this. We have great volunteers who provide services to these kids.
Well, that is amazing and so helpful. And I think if anybody's thinking about that,
give us a call.
Yeah, give us a call. Look at the website and
learn more.
That
you don't have to make a commitment by calling us. That's not a commitment. We want to educate families.
Right.
We have a local family who provided their kids were grown and they were a host family for either one little boy or both of their boys. I can't remember, but that mom went on to get a job and find a place to live, and they still 1 day a week pick these boys up after school, take the kids overnight because she works a night shift, and take them back to school the next morning.
Oh,
and this has been a relationship that's gone on probably 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, like grandparents.
Yeah, right. We're helping you out.
Right.
But sometimes you don't know who to help out. So this is your opportunity to find out who can I help, and maybe this is the volunteer thing I want to do. And we always encourage everybody to find their little niche for volunteer work because there's so many facets, and this might be just the perfect fit for somebody. Rebecca, is there anything else you want to tell our viewers about the services that you offer at Bethany Christian Services? Well,
we are just excited to be more involved in our community. We've gotten involved in the Chamber of Commerce, and just for people to know we're here, because we serve a large area, but we'd love for people to get involved. We offer what we call office tours periodically where people can come in and they meet our staff and hear a story about somebody we've served. So if you're interested in doing that, if you have a small group or maybe you have a business and you'd like your business to come by and hear what we're doing, call our office and say you'd like to do that, and we'd be glad to share a little more about what we do.
That's great. I think that puts people in the comfort zone when they know a little bit more about something that they maybe want to get involved in. Well, thank you for coming and bringing this to us. This is, something that's been around for such a long time and I didn't know anything about. So I'm really happy to know about it, and thank you for all the work you're doing for children. I mean, children need love and support and a family. So I hope you can think about that. And if you don't, you might know somebody who needs those services, and you can pass that information along to them as well. All right. Well, thank you again, Rebecca.
All right.
Thanks for watching us today. See you next time on Around Payless.